We are live, getting you guys ready for Game 2 of the American League Division Series. Cleveland Guardians versus Detroit Tigers. I'm Nick Padone. He is Jensen Lewis. Jensen, Game 1 gave us a lot of reason to be excited about this one. We are live here from the Lakewood Truck Park. Come on down, grab a beer, cheer on the Guardians. They're going to be on all the TVs around here. And Jensen, it is a great day to be out here for this Game 2 after the display of offense, the display of pitching the Guardians gave us in Game 1.
Unbelievable start, right? We were getting finished with our show, and it was getting, alerts left and right. Up, score 2, score 5. I mean, Lane Thomas coming out, first postseason at bat, first postseason pitch he sees and goes deep. The Guardians become the first American League team in postseason history to score 5 runs in a division series game in the first inning before recording it out. So the offense was great. Tanner Bybee, something we talked about too, with having to deal with the layoff a little bit and get the command. Fastball took a while to get going, but 4 2/3, and then the bullpen doing what it's done all year. So fantastic job. Held them scoreless, and not that it was a must-win, knowing Tarek Skubal's going today, but felt really good to get that opener and be able to have everyone kind of hitting on all cylinders.
Felt really good for sure, and you'll see Jensen and I kind of batting around because the midges are out today at the Lakewood Truck Park. And Jensen, I know you know a thing or two about that.
It was ironic too, right? Because Game 2 of the division series, my rookie year, was the midge game, and we all remember what happened with Jabba Chamberlain and how that really turned not only the game but really the series, I think, for us, because the way that Jabba and Mariano Rivera then were pitching, it was kind of the equivalent of what you watch Cade Smith and Emmanuel Clase do on a daily basis here in Cleveland. So I think that one was one of the great memories for me in postseason history, but also a good omen, if you will, because we got Game 2 of the division series here today.
Big one today. We are going to be joined by Barstool Tate. He can come on down right now. And Tate, what's up, man?
What's up, boys?
How you feeling? Getting ready for this Game 2?
I'm feeling loose today. How you guys feeling about it?
We're good, dude.
We're good.
We good here?
Get your thing there. There you go.
There you go. All right. Game 1, I think everyone was feeling really good because it was Tanner Bybee. But how you feeling today? Scooble on the mound. It's a little bit of a different animal. Am I right, Tate?
Listen, there's no one I'd rather have on the mound for the Tigers today than Scooble. Roughed him up for 10 hits last time just to let him know, and now we're going to knock in some runs today.
Yeah,
so
definitely need to get some more run-scoring opportunities. Hey, before we get to that, remind me, what was your minus 1,000 lock here? And I only bring it up as a Vanderbilt alum.
I was going to congratulate you on a big one. Did you see what happened, though, Jensen?
Yes.
The Ohio State line changed on me,
right?
So I had to add a sure winner. Has there ever been a more sure winner in sports than Alabama over Vanderbilt?
Oh, especially #1 Alabama, too, huh?
Yeah.
I was sweating. I was watching that down at the Harry Buffalo, and I was like, no way.
Yes.
No way.
Yeah.
Well, that was fun. It may not ever happen in our lifetime again, but I have had to bring that up for you. All right, so today, as a fan, going down and seeing what we saw on Saturday, I said to Nick, and I'm kind of hoping that the shadows are not there because of the cloud cover. Be interested to see if Scooble lives up to the run that he's on right now.
Yeah, he's legit. Obviously, he's legit. I'm not going to joke about that. But I will say, after the game, walking out, hearing a little of the Detroit chants, I shook handshake agreement. If Scooble loses today, Cy Young goes to Emmanuel Clase.
Okay.
It was a handshake agreement with the Tigers fan. I took a picture, so there's a lot riding on this game for the Tigers today.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
It is.
You don't want to go down 0-2 for sure.
Are you guys calling it a must-win game for Detroit?
I think it is.
Yeah.
And just knowing what they have, and this is their guy, and also thinking that when you go back to Detroit, everyone calls it a swing game. In theory, yes, of course. You win today, and then you create that momentum for Wednesday. That definitely plays into today. But I think the urgency, I think you see Detroit a bit more urgent, and I think it's great that Matthew Boyd, his first postseason start against his old club. I was telling Nick yesterday, it wouldn't have shocked me had they flip-flopped and they had Boyd start on Wednesday in Comerica Park. Just the familiarity, understanding what it's like to pitch there, and I was hoping that it would be for the clincher.
I like
There
that.
would be no better storyline than that.
I like that a lot. Yeah, today will be interesting. What's your guys' strategy coming out of the bullpen though? How soon are we getting Cade Smith up if we need him?
I think it goes the same. Kind of, you saw Tanner on Saturday, and a lot of it I think will be predicated on where Boyd is command and control wise, because it's still a similar layoff. I think September 24th, last time that we saw Boyd in the game. So a lot probably goes into how's his first inning look, how's his first time around the order look. Does Detroit, from their offensive mentality, knowing, hey, we want to try and get the lead for Skubal, does he get some quick outs? Does he get a couple of quick innings? If that's the case, I think if he gets to the fifth, that's a win. Every out he picks up, fifth inning on, huge bonus.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
cherry on top.
Jensen, because we were talking about for game one, you were saying it like repeatedly, and then we were joined by Carlos Baerga, and he said the same exact thing. And he was like, whoever has the score in the fifth or sixth inning, that's who's going to come out on top for game one. And surely enough, that happened. The Guardians jumped out really quick offensively, and they held it the whole rest of the way. Is that kind of how you see today unfolding as well?
Yeah, and I think Reese Olson did just an admirable job. Remember, too, that Tyler Holton, the opener, in 12 innings had not given up a run facing Cleveland. And, hey, throw all the numbers out. It's postseason, and jump them.
Did you see whose fault that was? It was the grounds crew's fault.
Oh,
did
yeah.
Did you guys see that quote? Oh, my. I thought these guys were the gritty Tigers. They're the pretty kitties. My goodness.
Wow.
Yeah, that was crazy. Tay, what else do you have on? Are you going to game three?
In Detroit?
Yeah.
I was looking it up. Detroit is about 4 hours from Chicago where I'm at. So if needed, I'm going to go there. If not, I'll be back here for Yankees Royals or whatever.
For sure. What have the last couple months been like for you, man? My guy Reflog is like living the most FOMO ever because he wanted to come chat with you today.
Disappointed. Where you at?
What have these last few months been like for you going out to Chicago? I know just a kid from Cleveland, and you're doing huge things now.
No, it's been really cool. I got a great opportunity. I was a decade-long teacher and high school basketball coach. Got an opportunity to go work for Barstool Sports, and the day we lost in the state tournament this year in the regionals, I left my teaching job, drove to Chicago, and it's been a whirlwind ever since.
Unbelievable. How was the interview process?
I got a DM from Dave Portnoy while I was sitting in second period and said, hey, would you like to go full-time? And I said, yes, I would. And then I had to go teach third period.
Okay.
Came back, and he said, how much to get you to leave teaching? And I said, not much. So we agreed by lunchtime. I wrote a blog, and I quit the next day.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
I always wonder about that, and to think about where it was just 10 years ago for Barstool Sports, period. I mean, they're a title sponsor for a bowl game now. I mean, think about where the evolution of all that is, and, of course, the evolution of media in general. But one, obviously, appropriate story you can tell us from your Barstool tenure where you're like, okay, I can't believe that this is my job.
Well, are you guys familiar with the free throw stream?
Yeah,
I am familiar.
No, I'm not. No.
So we partnered with DraftKings the day after the Super Bowl. And I had not started full-time yet for Barstool. I was waiting till my team lost in the tournament.
Yeah.
Well, they did a free throw stream where they had to break the Chicago Bulls record of 41 straight made free throws. And they weren't allowed to leave until they did.
Oh.
And so everyone's shooting. Jensen, they started at like 1 p.m., 12 hours later. I go to the gym. I make 25 free throws in a row and tweet at Dave.
Yeah.
And I say, hey, if you need help, like,
I'm here.
Yeah, I'll go. He goes, get on a plane. I'll pay you back. Get here as soon as you can. Flight wasn't until the next morning. So I drove from Columbus, Ohio to Chicago overnight, got there at 4:30 in the morning, called my principal overnight and said, hey, I'm sorry, I quit.
Wow.
And so get there.
Wow.
Made 2 free throws. We shot free throws for 36 hours. I don't know what it was. And we hit it. So
unbelievable.
That's my life now.
All right, ballpark festivities today. You know, obviously one of the great home field advantages in Major League Baseball. Was listening to Curtis Danberg, Senior Director of Communications, driving in today. The renovation pretty much is done by home opener next year. I think it's April 8th. I've said it as a pitcher. Nick and I have talked about it. Reflog, we've all talked about it. The way the ball travels, okay, but aesthetically, do you like how everything looks so far?
Yeah, I'm all in with what's going on. I love it. Are we buying into all the narratives about it with the way the balls? It has.
Oh, it's changed.
So from experience, you know what you're talking about.
It's changed. I was looking in May, and sometimes I go to the high home camera well just to kind of see how the ball's traveling on various nights. And McD, who runs our high home camera, I'm telling him, like, it didn't look like the ball that Fry hit off Andrew Chafin down the line. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. There's no way. And I, with no expletives involved, had the same reaction that Andrew Chafin did with a couple of bombs in there. I couldn't believe it.
But they put their pants on the same way we do,
Understood.
right?
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Understood.
Is people are acting like it's like a sneaky trick that we pulled on the league. You guys get to bat as many times unless we beat you in 8.5 because Class A don't give up runs.
That is correct. Class A is not going to give up any runs. That's going to carry on today.
Today's a Cy Young game. Today is a
Cy Young game. We've got a handshake bet on the books with our guy Barstool Tate. Obviously, we're very excited. They'll be able to use Class A Jensen, like you noted, because these Division Series games all have a one-day gap, which is awesome. You could use the whole bullpen now.
Did you guys like him coming in the other day? Were you a fan of it?
I liked it.
I like that we showed him, like, hey, we got this if we need it.
Yeah.
But also, wouldn't it have been better to maybe not give them a look that they're about to see again here soon?
So I understand the thought process. I thought Stephen Vogt had the quote. We want him to feel as beleaguered as possible. Like, you're seeing him and you still can't hit him.
Okay.
And I think from experience for me, you want to get in, and in that scenario too, where the game's kind of out, it's in hand, you have that ability to kind of get your heart rate and get a feel, and then get back into your routine. So I was completely fine with it.
I was listening to a little bit of Detroit preview on the way up, and they were beaten and downtrodden, kind of like you said, which is they need to get a lead in the first 5.
Yeah, I agree.
Or else they're not winning this game.
I think runs are at a premium. I think Boyd's going to be up for it. There's something in him. He's got that dog in him for sure. But there is something about going up against your old club.
Yeah.
And, I mean, again, they parted on good terms. Just injury issues and things of that nature. But I can remember in spring training, my first year with Arizona in 2012, and I told Kirk Gibson, our manager at that point, I'm like, if you can put me on the trip to go play Cleveland, I want to be there. And sure enough, I got to close out a spring training game, whatever. But it was still like a little added heart rate.
So there's extra juice there for him today.
And I think he'll have some too.
Man, I love that. All right, Trent, we're going to get you out of here. We need a score prediction, though.
Listen, here's the play today. First of all, how disrespectful is it that we're underdogs at home after what we just did to them on Saturday?
I like it. Is
that a typo?
Hey, plus money, you want to hand out money? Let's go.
Guardians money line. Scooble over 1.5 runs. Scooble over 4.5 hits. Parlay it. Book it.
I love it. That is Barstool Tate.
Go Guards.
I appreciate you
Thanks,
popping
boys.
on with us, bro. Always fun. Keep crushing it. His Wadsworth Grizzlies did beat my Nordonia Knights, though, Friday. We'll leave that out there. Man, a lot of energy out of that dude. But obviously, the true voice of the fan, and people understand that if you could get past Scooble today, you could start feeling really good, Jensen, about the rest of this series.
I mean, beleaguered is one great term to use. And not that A.J. Hinch has all his chips in the middle. This was the plan all along. If they get an opportunity to run up a pitch count too, and again force extra resources, like the last thing you want to have happen today is that Scooble just goes 4 scoreless with 50 some odd pitches and is punching out the world. So I don't think that'll happen today. I could still see him getting his half dozen strikeouts. That wouldn't shock me. But I do think that, and then we'll talk about it coming up, I think David Fry's a guy today. I think obviously Hosey's got a great career average against Scooble. Maybe under the radar play for you, Brian Rocchio, I think at the bottom of the order could be someone to key in on. I think Naylor's in there as well. So kind of excited to see where this goes. By the way, if you're just tuning in, Lane Thomas is hitting cleanup.
I love it.
Hitting cleanup. Naylor's slided back to the 5 spot. So anxious to kind of see where this all plays out and how Scooble attacks. The one other thing I would say for people going down there, anxious to see at game time if we get the sun out there. Because driving in, we had the cloud cover, and I think both sides would love nothing more than to have no sunshine.
Okay.
At least my both starters are in there.
Yeah, keep an eye on the weather. Currently here at the Lakewood Truck Park, we are blue skies and sunny. So come on down, have a Lipton hard iced tea with me and Jensen on your way down to the stadium. We're in for a good one. It's Game 2, Cleveland Guardians, Detroit Tigers. We're going to get you guys with the reset. We're going to set the lineup. We'll preview this game. Also do a little bit more Game 1 recap. When we return, don't go anywhere. More Big Play pregame right after this. Welcome on back into the Big Play pregame show, Game 2 of the American League Division Series. Cleveland Guardians, Detroit Tigers, just about an hour away. First pitch at Progressive Field set for 4:08. I'm Nick Padone. He is Jensen Lewis. We're hanging out here at the Lakewood Truck Park. Come on down to Lakewood if you're en route to the game. We're having a lot of fun here. We're brought to you today by our friends at Lipton Hard Iced Tea. Get some Liptons flowing on game day as well. Jensen, Game 1 was a ton of fun, and it was a ton of fun to just be joined by Barstool Tate there in the last segment. Brought us a lot of energy and a lot of juice. Obviously, Game 1 has everyone feeling good, and really Game 1 was historic in a lot of ways to win that way in shutout fashion.
Yeah, and as some of the notes, just kind of intriguing to see. 10th time in postseason history, a team has scored 7 or more runs in Game 1 of a shutout win at a best-of-5. or a best-of-7 series. Now, the caveat with that, only 3 of the 9 teams that did that went on to win that series. So hopefully history doesn't repeat itself there. As we talked about the bullpen, 4 1/3 hitless and scoreless innings. You got your big 4 in there, which I thought was great from Stephen Vogt. Class A now has retired 21 of the 24 batters that he's faced against Detroit. That's just Detroit. He's given up 2 hits in 7 innings, and it's been pretty remarkable just the run that he's been on. So something to focus on as we break down Game 2. You know, Skubal and Detroit. Detroit's won 22 of the 32 starts for him this year, and I think that's also something that goes back to our narrative of, yes, he's been hot. Last 10 starts, .75 ERA. He had it working against the Houston Astros. You saw him real emotional there.
Yep.
But I think the familiarity factor will be good. Now, I don't expect a 5-run first inning like we had in Game 1, but I'd be happily surprised if that happens. What I think is critical, drive up the pitch count, try and get as many pitches to see that first time around. Like the last thing you want to do is kind of go second time around the order and you haven't seen some of the off-speed stuff or really gotten a good sense of where he's at. So Kwani going to be huge today to get things started right. I swear, how close we were sitting here, and I was like, got to be great if Kwani was lead off the game with a homer. He came so close,
inches away.
I think he's critical today too.
Yeah, keep working that pitch count against Skubal because the sooner I feel like Jensen they could get him out of the game or at least rattled late in game, probably the better for our guards. We'll read you guys the lineup that will be facing Tarik Skubal today. It's Stephen Kwan leading off in left, David Fry DHing in the 2-hole, Jose Ramirez 3. Jensen called it before we went to break. It's Lane Thomas batting cleanup, playing center field. Behind him is Josh Naylor at first, John Kenzie Noel, Big Christmas in right, Andreas Jimenez playing second, Austin Hedges behind the plate, and Brian Rocchio at short. That's the lineup, Jensen, that's going to have to get it done today for our guards.
Yeah, as I look at it, I'm very intrigued on Lane Thomas going to the cleanup spot, but I think a lot of that trying to play the left-right game, not just – and I know Voter builds the lineup, the starting lineup, to beat the starting pitcher, but that also with a little bit of an eye towards late-game situations where they could possibly go if that presents itself. I think Rocchio has got a great chance to have a good game, and I think offensively he matches up pretty well. The one thing I would tell people is Detroit's offense, and Boyd getting the start against them, 343 including the postseason. Team batting average against left-handed pitching. I think they're only batting .43 against righties. So something to watch here as the matchup game goes. But I think that's where Matthew Boyd has to be really mindful of this group being pretty aggressive to try and get Skubal the lead.
Jensen, what do you make? What do you think Lane Thomas makes of getting that big bump up in the order? Because obviously it is pitching centric, but I feel like that's got to be a big boost in confidence that, hey, you just got to this ball club, your first postseason at bat that you saw, you blew the game open, and now your manager is giving you that vote of confidence, no pun intended, to put you in that cleanup spot and right behind Jose Ramirez.
Yeah, probably a conversation between Chris Faleka, Stephen Vogt, Lane Thomas of, hey, we feel that this particular matchup makes more sense for you to be there. So the confidence booster was just crushing a 3-run homer. And I think also leading into that, and we touched on it before Game 1, the first 2 to 3 weeks, the way he started versus the closing crescendo that he had in the end of the regular season, particularly the last couple of weeks in September. That is the most important part, I thought, at the deadline. Get at least a hitter. It would have been great to get 2. But I think they felt from within that Kyle Manzardo was that other guy. And, I know he had the little pinch hit on Saturday, but Lane Thomas, the way he hit in Washington would be so potentially critical for any run that the Guardians would be able to make in October.
Jensen, what do you make of Manzardo missing from the starting lineup again today? It's Big Christmas, John Kenzie Noel getting that start out there and right. Is there do you see a path today for Manzardo to insert himself like he did in Game 1?
Yeah, for sure. I would think you look at your matchups late and possibly, a Bo Brisky, right? Any right-handed reliever that ends up coming in. This lineup makes a lot of sense from how Stephen Vogt likes to start a game if it's a left-handed starter. And I think obviously reversal, you'd probably see Will Brennan and Manzardo in there for Noel and David Fry if it was a right-handed starter. So something to just kind of watch as you get into that second time of the order, depending on where Scooble's at. And I think Stephen Vogt will make A.J. Hinch make the first move. When is that line of demarcation crossed on, okay, he's my best bullet.
Yeah.
But I got a feeling that this offense is seeing him pretty well.
Yeah, and Jensen, I would love nothing more than I'll tell you the same thing really that I told you game one.
Yeah.
Go out there and hit him up early. I mean, like you said, I'm not expecting it to be 5-0 at the end of the first inning.
Right.
But at least put together some long at-bats at the end of the first inning and score some runs throughout the first 3 innings, 4 innings against Scooble, and I'll be feeling really good about not only the rest of this game, but I'm going to keep saying it about the rest of the series.
I would say that a couple of things to focus on would be Fry and Ramirez. Fry, it was one of my key guys today, just with what he's done against left-handed pitching for the majority of the season. That's the one guy that early in a game could do kind of what Lane Thomas did, and we hope that LT is able to do it too. But I think Jose Ramirez also having the good career numbers, hitting .429 against Scooble. That when you have stars that see a Cy Young guy really well, I think it gives the club a little moment of, okay, we can breathe easy. It's not like we're needing 4 guys to go out and hit today. You got one dude who's already seen him well, and I'm sure they'll go over that in the advance reports.
Something that was funny about our conversation with Barstool Tate is he's got this handshake bet on the line today of Emmanuel Clase and Scooble for Cy Young. Jensen, you've told us before that Emmanuel Clase, when he shows up to the ballpark, every day you would think that it's opening day for the guy. It's like a brand new day. You don't think that a piece of me, though, the human piece of me wonders if it's in the back of his mind that, hey, the guy that's starting this game is probably going to win the Cy Young, even though I was the best pitcher in baseball all year long.
I understand the argument for Tarek Scooble. He did win the Triple Crown, and that in and of itself is difficult to do. Remember, Shane Bieber in the pandemic year also did that, and I realized it was only, 10, 11, 12 starts. But ultimately, I mean, Clase is going to win the Mariano Rivera Award for the best American League reliever. And what I will find fascinating, as I told you guys, where will people put in their explanations, the people that have the voting for this year, how many second-place votes does Emmanuel Clase get? Like, is it unanimous, Scooble 1? Is it unanimous, Clase 2? I think it gives you a little window into what is valued, even though the Cy Young traditionally is a starting pitching award.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see. I'm also interested to see how the guards use the pen today.
Yep.
Just because you said it, Jensen, before our pregame show, Game 1, on Bringing the Heat on Monday, that this scheduling in the American League side of the bracket gives you that one extra day off, where now if Stephen Vogt feels like it, 5 innings through the game, you want to turn this thing over to the pen, go ahead, be our guest, because you've got another travel day now before you go to Detroit.
And it probably lends a lot more to understanding where ultimately usage is and how long you want Hunter Gaddis to go. Do you want Cade Smith to finish an inning and get back up and go again? Some cool history for Cade Smith, striking out every guy that he faced, 4 hitters, 4 strikeouts. I didn't realize it. Luke Petoskey does a great job over with the Guardians for the historical significance of it. That was my, inning in New York that we talked about, striking out Jeter, Abreu, and A-Rod. But what's fascinating from this day and just this matchup is the bench for Detroit and kind of where they're set up right now, and their lineup is out. So you have Justin Henry Malloy, who's leading off, and then Matt Vierling, who's basically been one of their best hitters hitting 2. Andy Ibanez, who has crushed left-handed pitching, but also has great career numbers against Cleveland overall. Riley Green, customary post in the 4th spot, and then Wensil Perez, who has actually had come on very strong. You don't see Kerry Carpenter in the starting lineup, and I think that's the other chess move that I'll be looking for is when does A.J. Hinch want to use that bullet, because it's clearly his best one off the bench, and we'll kind of have to see how the game plays out.
Super interesting perspective there. You mentioned Cade Smith and that being your inning, your rookie season. What did that possibly feel like for that kid to go out there and just be shut down, automatic Johnson, turn this thing over to Class A and the game's over?
Yeah, I mean, for him, it feels probably business as usual watching, but there's certainly an adrenaline rush at first time that you step on the mound in a postseason game, and that was similar. I can relate to it from Game 1 against the Yankees when it was Jacobs Field in 2007, and you have 45,000 people behind you in a night game. It was surreal to kind of feel that. It is an extra level up, and I'm sure that he felt. I'm sure Timmy Herron, again, these guys are still rookies, and to put it simply, I think all they tried to do mentally was, hey, I get it. It's a postseason game, but I'm going to stay with my routine. I'm going to stay doing what I do, and then let everything else go the way that it needs to. So, I mean, it's an embarrassment of riches for what Voter has down there.
For sure. Was that always your kind of strategy before, especially before your postseason game? Hey, let's just approach this as if it's the middle of June on a Tuesday.
Yeah, and that's something that is easier said than done because, hey, we're all human, and this is what you play for, an opportunity to win a World Series. These guys, though, have been so great with their regiment and have kind of had that communication beforehand, like, hey, here's kind of where I see you, this pocket of the game. So you're able to really mentally be ready for it. It's not a there's a handful of times where the phone rings, you're like, me? Like, me? I don't pitch in this point. So I think that's been a luxury for Stephen Vogt to have guys positioned to where, hey, this is traditionally where you're going to be. But also, Nick, that goes back to the beginning of the year, and I told you and Brief Log and Gab this was everybody in this bullpen got to pitch in leverage situations. They got to experience what it was like pitching in a tight game. Yeah, it might have been April. It might have been May. But still consequential in that we may need you. We may need – who knew that Tim Herron was going to have to fill big shoes for Sam Hentges
big time
as much as he did? But he had to. Hunter Gaddis was a starter, transitioned seamlessly into a setup role without Trevor Stephan for the year because of Tommy John. So imagine, and we're not done by any means for this year, but imagine what this bullpen looks like next year with a healthy Trevor Stephan, Cade Smith coming back, Hunter Gaddis coming back, Class A coming back, Timmy Herron. What you saw already from Andrew Walters on the postseason roster, the guy we never saw coming, Eric Sabrowski. Holy crap, has that guy been unbelievable. So, I mean, that's 6-7 names already. You got a full bullpen.
Yeah.
Good luck making a squad if you're a reliever.
Seriously. That's part of what's made this season so great, right? And that's part of what made the 2022 run that great was all of these dudes that a lot of people have never heard of before, not only coming up and having a couple of fun, punchy moments and then kind of petering out or getting sent back down, but it's you come up, you make an impact, and you find your way to stick around, and you kind of carve out your role mid-season while winning. It's the best way to go about winning, in my opinion.
And earning it, too, and having the opportunities given to you, because there are some managers, and I think this is another chapter of Stephen Vogt's year one chronology that we're going to look back on, is there was the ability to go to these guys and say, you're as big a piece of the puzzle. Pedro Avila, guy who just basically, in traditional sense, was there to mop up innings, collect outs, save the bullpen. He gets into big-time situations when they needed him because they had to give guys off. So I can tell you from experience, to have a manager believe as much as he does in maybe the last guy in the pen versus Emmanuel Clase, there's no wavering there. That's a rare thing to happen in big league baseball.
All right, a lot of convo there about the Guards bullpen. It will be, though, Jensen's Matthew Boyd's first start versus his former team. And as much as we were talking about the adrenaline, the emotions that those guys in the pen made making their first postseason starts, I got to imagine there's a little bit extra for Matthew Boyd today. And I honestly think, Jensen, that excites me because this is a guy that's been a pro for how long? We remember when he was on the Tigers and some of the fits that he would give Cleveland offense. I am very excited to seeing what Matthew Boyd puts together today as the starting pitcher for the Guardians in Game 2.
Yep, and that will be part of the early watch for me. Is very similar to Tanner Bybee. His first ever postseason appearance was on Saturday. The long layoff, trying to harness the fastball command. It took Tanner an inning or two to get there. Eventually got there. Yes, Matthew Boyd, a veteran. Yes, he's been around. You're a little kid, though, coming to the ballpark today. Yeah. It all kind of starts anew. And that, to me, is probably a huge subplot of just today's game. The journey for Matthew Boyd to come back. I mean, you could see the emotion on his face with the standing ovation, one of those last couple of starts at home. And I think he knew that, okay, you don't know how many bullets you have left. You don't know when you come back if everything's going to be there. Right. And then even after that, getting an opportunity to not only pitch, but find a way to a big league team. And then this dude was being relied upon down the stretch for huge starts. I mean, he pitched a couple of the biggest series of the year, wasn't even a member of the team, but fit in so seamlessly. I mean, I think Alex Cobb said it too. He's like, feel like you cut the line and you kind of cheated. You get to go to a first-place team, you get a chance to pitch in the postseason, and here we are.
Yeah, and they've won 6 of his 8 last starts, that he started for the Guardians. So you have to feel great when a guy like that, especially a proven seasoned veteran like that, is taking the mound against his former club. You start to see all of the all the pieces of the puzzle starting to come together on why the Guardians made the decision to roll with Matthew Boyd today for Game 2.
And again, I said it Saturday, I'll say it again here, without Ben Lively. Let's not forget him, and I'm sure it was incredibly difficult, the conversation that Voter and I'm sure Chris Antonetti, Mike Chernoff had to have is, it's not to say that you won't, be on an LCS team or a World Series, roster with this group, but remember how important Ben Lively was in the first half. Where are we without him? So I can't get lost in the fold here that he was so critical for us, a guy that had to start on the IL in spring training, finds his way in because of Bieber and McKenzie, and ends up being our most reliable starter for the first 3 months.
Yeah, Jensen, there was a time where Dave and I were saying on Big Play Cleveland, like, Ben Lively is the Guardians' Joe Flacco, and he literally takes the baton late in the season, hands it to Matthew Boyd, and Boyd has been able to run with it and get us to where we are today, and that's Game 2 of the divisional series with Matthew Boyd on the bump. It was really almost a seamless transition of him taking over that veteran starter role that's been around the block and done that. And like you said, who knows, maybe Lively comes in for, an ALCS series or a World Series and gives the Guards innings, but right now I understand, and I think the fans out there understand as well, that you've just got to roll with what's hot, and what's hot right now is Matthew Boyd.
And if you're a Joey Cantillo or a Gavin Williams, really, and I thought that Gavin was pitching for a postseason spot in his last couple of starts.
I thought so too.
I mean, the run there, about 5 or 6 consecutive outings, was not good, and now you'll see. And hopefully it's not today. Hopefully we've got a lead and we can hand it off just like we did in Game 1. But I think that's the intrigue for Game 3 is if it is Alex Cobb, is it Alex Cobb one time through the order? And then it's Joey Cantillo or Gavin Williams, or how did they position? And probably a lot will be off of, is it a 2-0 series lead or is it tied 1-1? So just, again, as you're thinking about it, it's not just about winning today. They've still got to keep an eye on, yes, you have an off day, but that's going to be another intriguing decision from Stephen Voto on how Game 3 goes.
For sure. Jensen, not to get too far ahead of ourselves here, you did name David Fry as a Guardian hitter to watch with Jose Ramirez. Yeah. Before we hop into some of the other division games, what makes you feel so confident about Fry and Ramirez today in particular?
Yeah, I think the way that Fry saw lefties, and this big reason why he was an all-star in the first half, 9 homers against left-handed pitching, hit, 287, I think. And a lot of it is how guys, from a matchup standpoint, he looks completely different when he's seen a left-handed pitcher, and that's good news, I think, for the top of this lineup, much the reason why you have him sandwiched between Kwani and Jose. And if it is 2 times around to see Scooble, and that's it, great. But I think he's just a good presence for a younger guy that is older in years, if you will. But he's shown that he's got good discipline. He's good at battle, and I like the idea. And this is usually the lineup anyway against the lefty, but I like this positioning to have the Fry guy there. That also could be a spot for Manzardo later in the game, to pinch hit. but I think he could present a pretty big challenge for Scooble today.
For sure. Straight ahead, we are getting you guys the rest of what's going on around these MLB playoffs. And Jensen, it's been crazy.
Yeah,
that Padres-Dodgers series that we said we were going to keep an eye on, well, it's time to really keep an eye on what's going on around baseball, which will hit you guys with all of that. Zach Meisel, 3:15, covering the Guards from Progressive Field, getting you guys ready for first pitch. It's game 2. We're hanging out here at the Lakewood Truck Park. It's all presented by Lipton Hard Iced Tea. Come on down to Lakewood Food Park. Get some good. We got. What do we have here, Jensen? I think this is a original steaks and hoagies truck right here. We're having a great time. Come on down with us and hang out. It's all presented by Lipton. We'll see you guys right after this. Welcome on back into Big Play pregame, getting you guys ready for Game 2 of the American League Division Series. Cleveland Guardians, Detroit Tigers, first pitch set for 4:08 down there at Progressive Field. The midges are out, Jensen, here at the Lakewood Truck Park. We're presented to you guys today by Lipton Hard Iced Tea. Come on down to the Lakewood Truck Park. We've got the original Steaks and Hoagies truck just staring me down across the way from where we're sitting right now.
Soon, yeah.
Yeah. They're just calling my name. I could hear it from over there. We're obviously excited about what's going to happen today at the corner of Carnegie and Ontario, but you look around baseball, Jensen, the Yankees came back from behind to take Game 1 against Kansas City. I think there were a lot of scoreboard watchers in this town out there watching that game on Saturday.
It was, and I think the other thing, too, is finding that you have the Royals, who in similar fashion for us were out in earnest, and really able to put up, some offense against Garrett Cole, and for not only going into Yankee Stadium, which is tough to play anyway, but also having, the opportunity to try and put things into perspective there where you got to have confidence. You've got to be able to score a bunch of runs. But, hey, what do the Yankees do? They find ways. That offense, outside of Judge and Soto, I think was one of the big question marks coming in. Could they do enough to try and help out those two guys? And come from behind fashion, 6-5, the win in Game 1. So I think that's something to, pay attention to going into Game 2 today. And with Cole Reagans, obviously, and Carlos Rodon going the two lefties tonight, must win for Kansas City, but in a way that is starkly different than the way that you look at Detroit today. I think that what I like most about Kansas City, and obviously we get to see them a lot in the division, they have probably the deeper rotation of any team left, and I think that's with all credit due to where the Yankees are with their staff, but they can play much different at home than a lot of other teams, and I think that will be their benefit. So if they find a way to beat Rodon today, then I think Kansas City feels mighty good going home knowing they got Seth Lugo ready to go.
Agreed. Yeah, look out because Seth Lugo is getting ready to go. Jensen, I'm looking forward to that one, but how about this? The New York Mets just refuse to stop being the New York Mets.
Yeah.
I mean, they are night in, night out, a really fun team to watch, and it's kind of been that way since August.
Game 1 was just unbelievable, and then watching Game 2 yesterday, you thought they were going to come back and do it again, but Nick Castellanos continues to defy imagination. Right, it was just crazy to see how those final couple frames, and I was wondering too, watching him, like, but did Carlos Mendoza go to Edwin Diaz too early? And I understand you're trying to shut down possible damage when he did. He owned Schwarber in his career, and that played out well. But always tougher for a reliever when you have to sit down and then try and get back up. So no surprise. That I told you on Saturday, Citizens Bank Park, it is a unique atmosphere in October. I mean, they don't call it Red October for nothing, but we got a series in that one. That's going to be fun for Game 3 tomorrow.
Yeah, 1-1 going back to the Big Apple now. Jensen, if you had to make a prediction, I think I got to go with the Mets, man. They just don't seem to they've got this script and they've stuck to it ever since August.
Well, I would think that Nola is a great asset for the Phillies to be able to go to, and a guy that has pitched in obviously a lot of games throughout his career. What I'll be intrigued to see is where does Carlos Mendoza go from a starting standpoint? You would assume it's probably Sean Manaea, but I'm wondering too if there is, the clock strikes midnight here at some point. If Philly is really damn good, and it wouldn't shock me if they go in and win Game 3.
Yeah, and every now and again, those fun, punchy teams, the magic sometimes does run out, and it probably wouldn't surprise me if that happens. To the New York Mets, Jensen will keep this going with my favorite series that's gone on thus far. Shohei Ohtani's first Major League postseason. goes yard. That was an epic moment, epic bat flip, one of the coolest. But then the Padres last night stormed back. That series is now tied at one game apiece.
Six home runs from the Padres yesterday, 2 from Fernando Tatis Jr. I think the headline that comes out of that game is more so what happened with the fans and throwing stuff at those guys. I mean, that was a wild scene to see, and then there's all those fights in the parking lot, but on the field. To see early when, Flaherty struck out Machado and is, talking his garbage and he's down. Like, you're going to do it when you're leading. And Machado and the boys had the last laugh. But I told you that Philly was a great atmosphere. Wait till you see Petco Park tomorrow. That pace is going to be insane. And I think I saw that, don't hold me to it, but I thought I saw that they were restricting people buying tickets that were
outside that as well.
Of the zip code or trying to make sure it's a home field advantage. The Dodger fans are going to travel.
Yeah.
And it's usually been a home game, for Dodgers being away from Chavez Ravine. But you're going to get – Citi Field is going to be electric. It's the first time the Mets have been home in 16 days.
Yeah.
So they finally do some laundry at home, get to sleep in their own bed. It's going to be 2 great atmospheres to watch tomorrow.
For sure. Jensen, what did you make of what was going on with the fans but in that game out west? Have you ever seen or been a part of anything like that before?
We saw in the Yankee Stadium, right?
Yeah.
When a couple years ago when Kwani goes to left, Miles Straw climbs the wall, and then you got everyone throwing stuff over. I think what was surreal is seeing Judge and Stanton and all the Yankee players running out and trying to tell their fans to calm it down. But I've never been a part of it where that stuff's happened. But, that is uncalled for. That's ridiculous to have that happen.
Yeah, especially, my school of thought on this is always, hey, you're a fan, you paid your ticket, you got the right to cheer, you got the right to boo, but you can't be messing around with what's going on the field. Like, those are professionals, and that's where, people say all the time, like, nobody's going in your office at work and, throwing stuff, empty beer cans or whatever at you, and you got to kind of let things go there. But yeah, that is true. I didn't have that flashback last night actually to that scene at Yankees Stadium, and that was bizarre when Straw climbed up that fence and was in a shouting match. That kind of energized the Guardians at that time.
Oh no, it did. It brought them together. That was one of the unifying moments, if people remember, because that was early in the season. I think they got swept in that series, but even in the loss in the final day. And I think even Miles Straw had said, he goes, that's my brother out there. I'm going to defend him. And he certainly did. And I thought that was a galvanizing moment for their unity for that club for sure.
Yeah. All righty. We're going to hit you guys with the refreshes. We're closing in here on the 3 o'clock hour. That means we're 1 hour away from first pitch over at the corner of Carnegie and Ontario. Cleveland Guardians versus Detroit Tigers. Jensen, Guardians money line was what Tate booked and pounded his finger on the table here. He felt pretty confident about that.
It'll be a kind of that first 5-inning look here of how long does Scooble stay in the game? How long is Matthew Boyd given a leash? Is this we're just going to do 2 times through the order for Stephen Vogt and then turn it over to the bullpen and just not give Detroit any room to try and have some life offensively. Won't shock me if this is like 1-1, 1-0 through 5. It could feel a lot different. Obviously, the temperature change. We had 70, 75 and perfect on Saturday. It's obviously a lot cooler, low 60s down there. And where kind of the wind is going, with how that change is, we'll definitely watch how the outfield plays and how the ball travels. So the one thing I take away, though, is we have sun now.
We do.
And if you remember years back, and this has kind of been the case with these 4 o'clock starting pitchers are in the light, and then halfway home you have that shadow. And ask any hitter who's had to try and pick up 99 with wipe out off speed. It is almost physically impossible for these guys to get read off spins and try to be able to make contact at least solid contact. So that's what I'm going to kind of watch too, is how are our scenarios here weather-wise? Will it be cloud cover or will it be like this?
Yeah, currently right now in Cleveland, we're out here in Lakewood, probably 15 minutes away from the ballpark. blue skies and sunny.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of cloud overcast at all. So keep an eye on that. Jensen, another great thing about game one is it was great for my DraftKings account. As our same game parlay did hit of Guardians money line, we also had bet down Tanner Bybee to 5 strikeouts. That was automatic. And then the over. was our last play. And a little bit of a sweat on the over. It didn't come till a little bit later in the game. But, hey, we saw all 3 of those go green, and that's what matters.
That was awesome. As I don't expect another 5-run outburst, we'll take it. But this will be a far different approach, I think, for Detroit, and knowing that you've got to try and get Tarek Skubal the lead. So, was it 6.5, 7 on the line?
I'm pulling it up now because remember, also too, when we were here, we were changing the the line moved as we were doing the show. So I'm gonna pull it up and find out exactly what it is. But yeah, it definitely moved when we were here on Saturday.
I think you look at, as I said, I've been kind of heavy on Fry. I think if you like, Jose today, for whatever reason, just kind of a gut feeling on Brian Rocchio. I think he could do something pretty special. And just sometimes you forget about those guys at the bottom. If you're a pitcher, you're like, oh, okay, you're hitting down here for a reason. Well, he's been kind of sneaky in spots, and perhaps today is the day. All
righty, we got it pulled up here. Guardians plus 110 on the money line, so that's what our guy Tate went ahead and did. Over-under total for this 6.
Okay.
That is a very, very low total.
Yeah. So, I mean, the total I would kind of stay away from today. Just you don't know, and I mean, again, as I said, if you're going anywhere on that, I think you could go the first 5, and if you wanted to buy up a little bit just to give you a little room for error, maybe an under 4.5 if it's available for the first 5 total. I think if you want to play it safe, Guardians plus 1.5 is probably like minus 170 or something. That's fine. I think you can go with that. That would be my safest play if I were to be recommending that. That's where I think I would go if I were you. And then if we want to get crazy with a parlay or kind of put a couple of guys together, I think Fry 2 or more total bases could be in there. Jose has seen Skubal well, great numbers against him. And if you want to just draw this thing out, Quan and Rocchio to get a hit, see what happens.
Yeah, that we're putting together a pretty juicy one there. What would you guess Skubal's strikeout total is set at for
probably
today?
6.5, 7?
It is.
Yeah.
It's 6.5 is that number. The 6 plus is minus 140.
Yeah, I could see that depending on what I wouldn't do anything with that until closer to game time, just seeing if it's like this and we've got the shadow, then I think you're safe there.
Alrighty, and then we'll flip it over to Matthew Boyd strikeouts. What would be your guess, Jensen Lewis?
3.5, 4 maybe?
They've actually got him at 4.5, 5.
Oh, wow.
5 is minus 160 for Matthew Boyd. So sports books, Vegas out there are giving Boyd a good bit of confidence today.
And I think if you look at where the lineup is for A.J. Hinch, again, you got Malloy and Vierling and Ibanez. Riley Green swung it well. No Carpenter, but Perez has been solid. Torkelson has really struggled this postseason thus far. Bottom third with Meadows, Rogers, and Sweeney. Again, I think the safe play, kind of where I was with Bybee. What was it? It's 5.5
and we bet it down to 5.
I think that's the way to go. What's 3 plus or 4 plus for Boyd?
So 3 plus for Boyd is minus 1,000.
Oh God, yeah. Okay, so you got to go 4.
So you got to go 4 is minus 350.
Yeah, if you put that with something else, for sure.
Yeah, put that with your Guardians plus 1.5 and Boyd throwing 4 strikeouts. You're already at minus 110.
Oh, that's good.
So then you sprinkle in the hitters. Maybe a Quan hit, Fry 2 bases. You're well in the plus money on a fun parlay there. That's a lot of fun. So we'll continue to build that out. Let's do it, Jensen. Let's feel good about some of these hitters. We could go. Let's go David Fry 2 bases.
Okay.
You like that?
I like that. Yep.
All right, cool. And then we could flip on over to hits.
I think Ramirez to get a hit. It's probably going to be super juicy on there, but that's okay.
Yeah, minus 245,
Yeah,
but pairing it with our other legs,
Yeah,
we'll take that.
I like that.
All right, so we currently have Guardians plus 1.5.
Okay.
1 Jose Ramirez hit, 2 David Fry total bases, and 4 Matthew Boyd strikeouts. We're sitting at plus 465. $20 pays 113.
So the only other one I'd throw in if you want to go higher would be Kwan to get a hit, and you're probably at plus 600 or something like
Let's
that.
do it. Let's do it. Let's put it in there. Let's find him. Stephen Kwan, 1 hit. Our 20 goes up to plus 625. Pays 145, and that is going to cover the tabs here at the Lakewood Truck Park. We're putting together some bets. We're having some fun. Straight ahead, the Athletics' Zach Meisel joining Big Play pregame. He's going to break things down, joining us live from Progressive Field. It's going to be a lot of fun. You don't want to miss that. Come on down to the Lakewood Truck Park, get some Lipton hard iced teas, and listen to Zach Meisel's interview over these speakers. We'll see you guys straight ahead right here on the Big Play pregame show. Welcome on back, Big Play pregame show. Jensen Lewis, Nick Padone. We are live from the Lakewood Truck Park. And Jensen, boy, we are under an hour away from Game 2, our 2-hour-long live pregame show, bringing you guys all the way up until first pitch. American League Division Series, Cleveland Guardians versus Detroit Tigers. We're presented to you guys today by our friends over at Lipton Hard Iced Tea. Get on down to the Lakewood Truck Park. The Lipton Hard Iced Teas are flowing. We're having a lot of fun hanging out here, getting ready for Game 2. You could tweet at the show at Big Play. I'm at Nick Padone 12. He's at JLou50. Our guy Mike Brown's UK checking in again. Question for Jensen from across the pond. What's the key number, Jensen, you're looking for from Matthew Boyd in today's game? Whether it's innings pitched, pitch count, strikeouts, or runs allowed, what number do you think Boyd needs to hit to give the Guards the best shot at winning? That's a great question.
Yeah, and shout out, 9:15 across the pond right now.
The fish and chips are being digested.
Yes. I think I told you 4 innings, and every out he gets beyond that, it really goes to the Guardians' favor. Strikeouts I'm not as worried about. Pitch count, I don't think, barring something unforeseen. If he goes 7 shutout and it's 110 pitches, then God love him for it. But I would expect you get to that second time around the order. If things are still pretty tight, then I don't think Stephen Vogt's going to allow a big inning opportunity. And knowing that pretty much everybody is fresh with the day off yesterday, 4 innings at least from Matthew Boyd, I think that's my target line for him.
You know, we've said it kind of as a steadfast rule for Game 1. Are we going to transfer this, I wonder, into Games 2 and Game 3 of, hey, that third time around the order, let's not even tinker with it. Let's just turn this thing over.
And I think that's kind of where both teams are. That's how A.J. Hinch has had Detroit and where they've gotten in. Skubal's their only traditional starter at this point, much in the same way as you look at Cleveland. Tanner Bybee was that starter, and before Boyd and Cobb got here, they were trying to piece it together themselves. So, yeah, that's how October baseball has been the last few years. I think it stays the same.
Mike, appreciate you tuning in all the way across the pond over there in the United Kingdom. Always good to answer those questions. Like I said, you could tweet the show at Big Play. I'm Nick Padone 12. He is at JLou50. Joining us from Progressive Field momentarily is going to be the Athletics' Zach Meisel. But, Jensen, while we're on the topic of Matthew Boyd, I just can't get it out of my head how cool it is that he makes his return against the Detroit Tigers in the ALDS. It's 2 clubs that have faced each other a bunch. We've seen Matthew Boyd a bunch in a Detroit uniform. And now here we go again, getting ready to pitch him in this game against the Tigers.
8 years with Detroit, 2015 through 2021, and then
Incredible.
again in 2023. He's had a handful of relief appearances against the Tigers, but this will be his first start in a opposing uniform against them, and of course in the postseason. He pitched against St. Louis in the last time that he was on the mound. So September 21st, 2 runs in 4 innings, still a good amount of time off. I mentioned it to you, it bears repeating. The sim games during the week leading up to the series, just trying to get guys to stay stretched out and at least see some sort of competition, I think was critical. Now let's see how that kind of pays off with his start today.
Absolutely. Alrighty, I think we have Zach Meisel on the line joining us now from Progressive Field. Zach, can you hear us?
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me? Can you see me? I don't know.
We can hear you. I don't believe we can see you.
I'm 35 going on 60.
All good. Zach, what's the vibe like there for Game 2 today? Obviously, the fans have a ton of reason to be excited after the performance the Guards gave us in Game 1 on Saturday. I know that ballpark's packed. We've already gotten texts and selfies from the stadium. What's the vibe for you up there in the press box?
Well, guys, the attendance is going to be about triple what it was the other day. And
wow.
Because the midges are here. Everywhere you look, the Bugs are back. But otherwise, it's so cool with playoff baseball. I mean, I know nobody wants – you want the primetime slot. You want the 8 p.m. under the lights. But the thing is, it doesn't matter when they schedule these games. It could be 10 a.m. on Cartoon Network, and you're still going to get a packed house and a great vibe. So that's the case for a Monday afternoon. It was the case for a Saturday afternoon, and it always creates a great environment.
Yeah, and Zimai's, obviously, you'll get the primetime spots the more you keep winning, so that's really the only thing to control. Something Nick and I talked about in hour one, and I think you've got a good pulse on it. Having covered Matthew Boyd and seeing when he was with Detroit, going through the injury issues and now making such a resounding return to the big leagues, it is sort of storybook how baseball works out, that he's going to get his first postseason start against his old club. How's he taking it through the week, and your thoughts on his preparation leading into today?
And not just against his old club, but against Tarek Skubal, who credits Boyd as being his mentor. So, maybe Boyd can say, hey, when you win the Cy Young Award, you can take me out to a fancy dinner since I taught you everything you knew. But, yeah, I mean, these guys know each other so well. Obviously, Boyd knows that team so well, and he came up at a time when it was Justin Verlander anchoring that rotation, and now it's Skubal, and it's been a long, winding road to get to this point. I mean, with Boyd, he decided to sign with Cleveland in late June, and the thing that put it over the top for him was tuning into. Remember that series in Baltimore when Jensen Lewis came up in his first at bat, he crushed one over the center field fence, and that team, that was kind of their high water mark of the season. They were 25 games over 500, and Boyd tuned in. He was watching that game, and he saw the energy in the dugout and the guys all having such a great time, and he said, I want to be part of that. And he went through some miserable years in Detroit where they lost 114 games.
Yeah.
You're trying to find motivation for yourself late in the season where it's like, God, I gotta go to the ballpark again. Well, at least I'm pitching today. I have something to do. So he's seen that end of it, and he wanted to be part of something that, can give you energy. This stage in his career, he's in his 30s now, and so it's cool how it works out. And no one would have thought, the Tigers were struggling at that point. No one would have thought they'd be meeting up here in October and he'd be on the mound facing his old team.
Absolutely. The Athletics' Zach Meisel joins us via the phone live from Progressive Field. And Zach, we could hear some of the stadium ambiance there behind you. Give us a player that's not Matthew Boyd for the Guardians offense that is kind of your X factor to watch. Jensen Lewis has us circling here, David Fry, but Zach, we want to hear from you. Give us one player to watch offensively for the Guards today.
Yeah, let me go with a guy who he has to be he has to be an X factor, just because I could see him going 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts. I could see him putting one onto the plaza, the Gateway Plaza, and that's Jensen Lewis. When you're facing someone as tough as Skubal, sometimes you just need that guy to just. If Skubal's going to make one mistake, like, you want Noel at the plate for that, cash in 2 or 3 runs in one swing, because he's just such a tough pitcher to hit off. So I'm going to go Noel. I thought he had some, he didn't have much to show for it, but he had some decent at-bats the other day. He's hitting 6, and I think just a game like this, it's probably going to be low scoring. It's going to be tight. One swing of the bat from him can make a difference.
I love it.
Z, when you look at where Stephen Vogt, and it was a question that we fielded from fans about, was it the right move to get all 4 of the big relievers in there? For me, absolutely wanted to get those guys with such a long layoff. Your expectation now with both managers, and Nick and I talked about that line of demarcation for A.J. Hinch, like Skubal's your best bullet, and you got to get a lead for him and try and let him carry you through. Do you feel it's probably 2 times around the lineup for Boyd, or any outs he gets past the 5th inning, bonus points if they've got a lead?
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of the schedule is just how much it benefits the Guardians from being able to lead on that bullpen. And Jensen, you know this better than anybody. Like, you want to get in a rhythm, right? Don't you want to pitch like every other day if you can? And if you're sitting, if those guys didn't pitch Saturday, you have to use them today, and for some of them it would have been like 10 days off.
Right.
And you get so rusty, and the other thing is they hadn't pitched aside from Clase. Those 3 guys had never been in this sort of atmosphere.
Yeah.
So let them get their feet wet in a 5-0, 7-0 game instead of, hey, Hunter Gaddis, here's your first playoff appearance of your career, and by the way, it's 2-2 in the eighth inning. Yeah, so I think it was beneficial the way they did that. And you're right, quick hook with Matthew Boyd, and that's okay. Alex Cobb even said it today. It's like, that the bullpen is there. So just let it eat for 4 innings if that's what you're going to get. Because when you see Cade Smith jogging out from the bullpen, that's a good feeling. Pitchers don't want to leave the mound, but with this bullpen, I think they're accepting.
Zach, in the first hour of the show, we were joined by Barstool Tate, and I don't know how much you know about him, but a very vibrant personality blessed us here at the Lakewood Truck Park, and he declared this a must-win game for Detroit, as if the Guardians go up 2-0 in this series. They're sitting pretty as the thing flips over to Detroit. Do you feel the same way? And do you think the Guardians understand that if they go up 2-0 today, this thing is going to be hard for Detroit to come back in?
Yeah, I agree. This is like the Guardians smelling blood, right? The Tigers are supposed to win this game. They're favored. They've got the best pitcher in the world on the mound, but they're going to have to score runs too. And if the Guardians can keep it close, again, we know what that bullpen's capable of. I like Cleveland's lineup better in general over Detroit. So just because you have that ace in the mound, I think when we look at trying to forecast what's going to happen in the playoffs, we spend so much time just looking at the pitching matchup and saying, well, this team, but there's so much more to it. And I think, that's the key. Like Jensen, I don't want to bring back some bad memories, but, if we go to 2007, I think we would have said, oh, well, you got Sabathia and Carmona on the mound in game 6 and 7. So, you like Cleveland's chances there. But there's so much more than just the pitching matchup. And it's just looked like Houston had a chance to win that game that Skubal started in the wild card series. They just couldn't get the big hit in the late innings when Skubal was out. So if you keep it close, I like Cleveland's chances, and that puts a lot of pressure on the Tigers.
I agree. Zimai's last one from me, and I appreciate you taking time. Know you're busy for the day. I looked at where it was from an odds standpoint, and not many times that you get a home playoff team as a home underdog. But Guardians plus 105, plus 110, and obviously with respect to Skubal. But the run total was where I was at 6. I don't anticipate another 5-run first, but if it happens again, we'll take it. Does it feel like first team to score advantage there, and it's like that 2-1 kind of grind it out where we've seen it from both these teams down the stretch?
6 that's like absurdly low.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you even argue that? That's I think they're expecting the 3-2 game, right? That's what this feels like. So it's a matter of who gets that hit. Someone's going to score. So is it can Boyd limit unforced errors? You can't walk people. You can't, if you're going to give up hits, let them be singles. Don't let them hit one in the count. This Detroit lineup is very tameable. And then if you're Cleveland, it's just like, can you get that one swing? Whether it's Jose Ramirez, whether it's Noel. The thing that people, I know Skubal's a different animal, but the Guardians were better against lefties this year than righties. It feels like that's the first time that's ever happened. But David Fry's been so good against lefties. Lane Thomas has been so good against lefties. Jose Ramirez had a really good year against lefties. You never worry about Kwan and who he's facing. I mentioned Noel and what he could do with one swing. So there are threats. I don't know who's going to win, but I think the Guardians have a legitimate chance.
Absolutely. The Athletic Zach Meisel was our guest. Zach, appreciate you popping in.
Thanks,
and talking all things Guards with us before game 2. Have a good one, man.
You got it, fellas. Take care.
Zach Meisel, great stuff from him joining us live from Progressive Field. And Jensen, you could hear in the background of his phone, it's already starting to get loud in there, and it was loud in Game 1. I was listening to Tom Hamilton on my way back from the Lakewood Truck Park, and it was loud in there.
It's a different animal, and again, 2+ million fans in the regular season, it makes a difference for us players, and I can relate from the Jacobs Field playoff days in 2007, and good story off of what kind of Z-Mize was talking about. Trot Nixon was basically our our Austin Hedges,
Yep.
in that team, and didn't play a ton, but when he said something, you took it as Bible, man. And what I loved about his talk to us was no one expects us to win, no one expects us to advance, and no one thinks we've got a chance. So let's rally together and let's prove everybody wrong. We go out and we paced Chien-Ming Wang in Game 1 of the Yankee series, and then Andy Pettitte was just unbelievable in Game 2 with Fausto Carmona. We walked that off. We get to Yankee Stadium with a chance to sweep in Game 3, and he goes, every media member is going to try and turn your words, try and make something into bulletin board material. Don't let them. We belong here. We didn't get to win in Game 3, but in Game 4 to clinch that series, a feeling we'll never forget.
Man, that's incredible, Jensen, to hear, especially when you hear the story that Zach gave us about Matthew Boyd deciding to come to Cleveland in June. And it was that series against the Orioles. And if you remember back, that was so fun. It was like Big Christmas's coming out party. They had so much fun in Baltimore. And Boyd saw that and wanted to be a part of it. Now he has a pristine opportunity in front of him to be a part of it in a major, major way. That was just an awesome story from Zach, too.
And also to also put a little extra color on Boyd and on Skubal. Boyd was that veteran when Skubal was coming up that kind of took him under his wing and had him over, for dinner during the pandemic year. And I think Skubal had forgotten his glove on a road trip, and Boyd lent it to him, and lent him one of his gamers. And just the way that veterans take care of young guys, and who would have thought that the world would come around and both these guys would match up in the biggest game of the year.
100%. Jensen, how crazy is that, that like, literally the prodigy and the mentor kind of go head-to-head here with Detroit's season. And I liked that Zach, came out and said, season's pretty much on the line here for Detroit today. I mean, you've got your guy, your Cy Young winner on the mound. I mean, you've got to win this one here today if you're the Tigers, because if you go down 0-2 and this thing flips back to Detroit with the Guardians having kind of a 1-2 punch in the starting staff ready waiting for that Game 3, you're in a world of trouble. I like that Zach came out and agreed with us kind of, and Tate as well, that, hey, this is really what this series is going to boil down to is here today.
It's not a surprise, and I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure that out. But what it will boil down to is execution. We talked about this before the series started. I mean, 7 of the 13 games were one-run games. Saturday kind of an outlier, not used to seeing that kind of explosion. But I go back to that because after the first inning, Detroit pretty much held this Cleveland offense in check. And I think that's something to think about when the moral victories are few and far between. But if you're Detroit, you're taking that as a pitching staff and saying, all right, just one of those anomaly innings. But pretty much after that, we did our job, and we gave our team a chance to come back. So something also to kind of follow here, that if you're Tarek Skubal, you kind of got a little blueprint into where Reese Olson was and what was effective. I get it, they're two different, handed and armed guys, but I think that's where A.J. Hinch goes with his boys and says, fellas, for 8 innings, shut them down. They got one big inning against us, but that's pretty much it. That's the mindset I think Detroit has today. Yeah,
that'll be interesting too, Jensen, to see how that unfolds, especially because if the Guardians are able to jump out quick again offensively, like we both want them to do, and, dominate these first 5 innings and turn it over to the pen where they've been so good. I mean, if you're able to do that again, then that deflating feeling probably starts to sink in for Detroit. Well, they've got us again early in the game. And of course, that one first inning from Game 1 is an anomaly, but to have something similar like that happen twice, I got to imagine that would take the wind out of Detroit.
They're going to try and take the crowd out, and that's your other thing you remember from Saturday is it's not just getting the first 2, but Lane Thomas hitting a three-pointer is an unbelievable feeling for the home team, and very debilitating, as you mentioned, for Detroit, because you just feel like you got knocked out in the first round. And so hopefully it doesn't have to be that. As I said, we'll take it. But I think there has to be a sense of urgency from Cleveland's offense too. Like you want Tarek Skubal to feel even more pressure than what he probably already feels going into this afternoon.
Yeah, nobody has talked about that angle of it yet.
Yeah.
That, you know, there is a ton of pressure on Skubal in this game. You know, really Detroit's season on his shoulders. As, you know, so many people talking about, well, he's going to give the Tigers the best chance to win. And while that's true, I mean, mentally he has to understand that, season's on the line here, and if it's not going to be me, I don't know who it's going to be following.
Well, he's confident. We know that. He's relishing this opportunity. I'd have to believe so. And at the same time, that's where if you land kind of one or two of those punches early offensively, and you look at the start that he made against him this year, Nick, 10 hits. They didn't get a bunch of runs across, and Skubal went 7 innings. But I think that's where the Cleveland offense goes back and says, fellas, we hit him. Okay, we didn't cash in the scoring opportunities maybe as often as we would have liked, but it's not like he went out and threw 7 no-hit innings or 7 shutout with 1 or 2 hits. I mean, plenty of guys put the ball in play and did it with regularity to, I think, give them also a mental advantage. Fellas, we've seen him. He's been pedestrian kind of against us as far as the overall career mark. So, again, just the angles you look for from a mentality standpoint to try and get out there and get on top.
Yeah, big time. It is going to be a massive Game 2 today at Progressive Field. Game 2 of the American League Division Series, Cleveland Guardians versus Detroit Tigers. We're hanging out here at the Lakewood Truck Park. 2-hour live stream before the game. Jensen, we're less than 30 minutes away from first pitch down there in Cleveland. So if you guys are out there trying to skip out of the office early, come on down to the Lakewood Truck Park. The Lipton Hard Ice Teas are absolutely flowing. We've got blue skies. Jensen said watch that, especially early in the game. We'll see you guys down here. We've got 30 minutes to go when we return right here on the Big Play pregame. Don't go anywhere. Welcome on back. Big Play pregame final segment. I'm Nick Padone. He is Jensen Lewis. We are live, as we will be every single game for the Cleveland Guardians throughout the ALDS. So game 3, Jensen, same bat place, same bat channel. What is it? Same bat time? Something like that?
Exactly.
For Batman, we're going to be right back here at the Lakewood Truck Park hanging out with you guys. It's all presented by Lipton Hard Iced Tea. I promise I'll keep the Batman half references to a minimum. Come on down to the Lakewood Truck Park. They're going to have the game on all the screens out here. We've got the original Steaks and Hoagies truck right across from Jensen and I. And this one final segment is what stands between me and that truck. Jensen, it is almost game time from the corner of Carnegie and Ontario, and we had some great guests on the pregame show today. We had Barstool Tate come break the game down, say that it's a must-win for the Tigers, and then Zach Meisel doubling down on that, but then also sharing some super cool insight about this team and how they acquired Matthew Boyd, what made Cleveland such an enticing fit for him. The one thing that I thought from Meisel's interview that went under the radar completely is how great the Guardians have been against lefty pitching all year, and that's a big thing to watch today against Skubal.
Yeah, actually, both Detroit and Cleveland have been good, and Detroit 343 against left-handed pitching.
Wow.
That includes the postseason already here in 3 games. But as far as the must-win and just some numbers to put it into perspective, 90 teams that have trailed 2-0 in a best-of-5 postseason series, only 10 have come back to win it. So that's just a tick over 11%. Doing the math there. That's why I thought it was important to kind of bring back. Yes, okay. You heard on a lot of the broadcasts, Tarik Skubal looming, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, but the dude's got to get up. He's still got to come out and make the pitches, and if he doesn't, then it adds that much more pressure to Detroit's offense to try and get this thing in their favor. So I don't think it's as clean cut as he's just going to go out and go out and dominate and be able to just carve up this Guardian lineup. So again, I'll go back to my keys I talked with you and Dave with on Monday or on Saturday is both starting pitchers, and particularly with Boyd, the layoff, the time not being in a regular season game to now, I think will be something that first time around the order, that first inning, let's see where the heart rate's at, let's see where the command is. And then for Skubal, knowing that it's amped up a bit, like what you want to see happen from a Guardian standpoint is a 3 up, 3 down, nice and crisp. Get that club in, that stadium into it. If Kwani leads off with a double again, you want those, here we go again vibes early for Tarik Skubal to have to deal with.
100%. And Jensen, it's so funny how you kind of call out the national pundits there, that look at this matchup surely on paper and say, well, they've got Skubal. Tigers are the favorite. This is their game to win. Playing games on paper, we know in this city is a dangerous game to play. Look at what's happened with our friends over at the Cleveland Browns the first 5 weeks of their season. The game is not played on paper, ladies and gentlemen. It's played on the diamond over there at the corner of Carnegie and Ontario today, and that's why the Guardians will have an opportunity to win this game. I like Lane Thomas moving up in that order against Skubal. I think that could be a lot of fun at the top of the order, especially you get Kwani on base, you get Hosey on base, and then it's Lane Thomas with Josh Naylor behind him. I think that's just a fun, interesting dynamic that's a little bit different for this game and a little bit different than what we've seen the Guardians do with that lineup, at least in the playoffs to date. So vote getting creative, man. I love it.
Yeah, and also for people that just joining us, Jose Ramirez, 429, his average against Skubal in his career. So he's seen him really well. And what you've also noticed from Jose this year, and Z-Mize brought it up too, usually going to the right side in years past has been where managers have tried to put Jose Ramirez because his bigger power side is the left side. But it's been pretty even watching him for this year and maybe one of his better seasons all around, hitting from just the right side. So that's where he'll start today. I mentioned David Fry. Love where he's at in the 2 spot. Haven't talked about Josh Naylor yet, and that could be scary. And I think for him too, when you think about big moments and big situations, we said for the majority of this season and really majority of the last couple of years, when are you going to stop pitching to Jose Ramirez? Now the question is, okay, do you try and bypass Jose to go against the scorching hot Lane Thomas? And then if you've got traffic on there for Naylor, like we have not had this for a Guardian team and a Cleveland baseball team probably since 2017, with Edwin in there and the Parrot and Jay Bruce coming over the 22-game win streak and going to the postseason. Remember, that club went up 2-0 over the Yankees and then could not get it across the finish line. I think that's where this club this year, much deeper, and Stephen Vogt not afraid whatsoever to play the matchups whenever it happens. He's not afraid to try and force some chaos with his bench. And I think we see that play out again today.
Very interesting dynamic there, because in that 5 spot, don't sleep on Josh Naylor's ability to put a ball in the stands. I know Zach Meisel called out John Kenzie Noel as his X-factor player to watch, because when you have a guy like Scooble on the bump, you need to capitalize on those mistakes that he makes. And Big Christmas is a guy that could clear the bases with one quick swing of a bat. But I put Josh Naylor in that same sentence, a guy that could not only put a ball in the stands, but then energize all of his teammates with a chaotic lap around the bases and whatever he decides to do. We never know where his brain's going to take him.
And if you're looking for another Detroit hitter too, Andy Ibanez, who's going to be in the 3 spot today, I think he's got a 394 average career against Cleveland. So seen him well. You see A.J. Hinch kind of moving the chess pieces on his own board, Veerling up to 2. You have Ibanez at 3. No Kerry Carpenter to start the game. Would not believe that he's going to be on the bench for long. I think A.J. Hinch will try and find a position, and it may happen when Stephen Vogt elects to take Matthew Boyd out. When that happens, I think that's where you see Kerry Carpenter find his way in. But also remember, that's kind of their best bolt, and where Stephen Vogt is too. Tyler Freeman not on the active roster anymore because of the oblique, so Angel Martinez now on the active roster. There's another speed element too, maybe a pinch run scenario, defensive replacement. But Ibanez would be a guy in the middle of Detroit's lineup early, with the numbers he's had against Cleveland pitching, and in particular this year.
All right, I like that insight a lot, Jensen. You mentioned some of the pitch hitting that that Detroit could do. Now talk to me about Cleveland. When we look at late game adjustments, things that they could try to do. We talked about it a little bit in the first hour of the show. Kyle Manzardo, again, not in the starting lineup for the Guardians, but you got to imagine that is going to be a card that Vogt has in his back pocket that he could put onto the table kind of at any point in this game.
Some of that might be predicated, too, on how does Fry look early if it's just not seeing it well. And again, that might be the case for a few of these guys. That's why I said I'm anxious to see as we got closer to game time, would it clear up a little bit, because that is going to be bad news for both lineups. If you're down there at the stadium, you're going to see that line go about halfway through between the mound and home plate. So both starters will start literally in the sunlight, and then trying to pick up the spin and read pitches going from light to dark is going to be pretty tough. So I think we get a pretty good early look at where guys are seeing it or not seeing it. And then that also leads into, can Scooble collect quick outs? If he does that, bad news for the Guardians. So whatever they can do to try and prolong that first time through the order and drive the pitch count, huge priority for that group.
I love it. Jensen Lewis, thank you so much for joining me, brother. We've got a fun one here today. We're at the Lakewood Truck Park. If you're watching the game at home in your home office, or if you're at work, come on down to Lakewood, hang out with us, watch the Guards. Jensen, it's prediction time. We've got to lock in some score predictions for this game. I'm going to go super low scoring. And I know Zach Meisel kind of chuckled a little bit at the total being 6. I think I'm going to go under the 6. I'm going to go Guards win this game 2-1.
All right, I was going 3-2.
Okay.
I think so. And I think the urgency is there. I think that this group has heard all the lead up from this week. And once we found out it was going to be Detroit, hey, Scooble. All right, I think the offense is going to take that a bit personally, and I think they're out to try and show, like, all right, he might have won the Cy Young in the regular season, but we don't care about that. So I think you see a very focused Guardian offense, but I'm with you. I do think runs are at a premium on both sides.
Yeah, big time today. I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, we're going to be right back here at the Lakewood Truck Park for Game 3. We're looking forward to that. We hope to be doing it on the heels of a Guardians victory, going up 2-0 in this first-round American League Division Series against Detroit. For Jensen Lewis, I'm Nick Padone. Ryan Smith, huge shout-out to him producing these remotes for us every single show. Coming out to Lakewood on Wednesday. We'll be doing it here again for Game 3. We'll